Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the X-Men 97 review. To us, our X-Men. No, our GeekVerse. I only did it right once. Damn it. Next week.
You have a few more weeks.
Yeah, a few more weeks. I'm the Clown Prince of Broken Men, Travis Snell. I'm joined by...
What in tarnation, Kirkland Patzer?
I'm the Scimitar Tongue, Dylan Musk.
I'm the blue blush Taylor Field.
You don't want to be the Blue Bush?
I was going to say blue blush.
You were. I could see you, Blue. Can you say
Looking
that
like
3
Beast
times
over
fast?
Blue blush, blue blush, blue blush. That's tricky.
I don't think any of them were successful, but ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about X-Men 97. Everything you need to know is down below. We're doing a double cast, so we won't go through a bunch of plugs, but there'll be lots of stuff in the newscast. We got Civil War coming out this week. We had check out the gimmick. We reviewed WrestleMania that was there. Dylan did a solo side quest on the recover, but I'm sure side quest will be back next week to its regularly scheduled program. I saw next week, or did Kirkland get shuffled to next week?
Kirkland, you're welcome to join us since, we had to kick from Monday and then you couldn't do Tuesday, so I just went without you, which I feel bad about. So you're welcome to join us next week if you want me and Travis.
I'll crash
Dylan,
the two-man show.
Dylan says you're welcome to join, but
Let's
we'll have
do
to
it.
talk off air. I don't know if I want that. But no, check out that. I'm sure we'll be talking about some good news and everything. Star Wars Outlaws trailer's out. I didn't even watch it, but I'm excited to talk about that. So lots of good stuff. Trying to think, if you're a Patreon, head over there. Thank you to Colin, who just joined Patreon. I got the notification earlier today. You can listen to a Hidalgo review. That's up there nice early and ad-free. So, lots of memes are coming out of that one. But we are here to talk about X-Men 97, Episode 5, Remember It. And last week we were speculating, like, oh, what's it about? We hadn't seen anything. I kind of learned a few days later, like, okay, might have some Genosha vibes. So, okay, cool. Starts off pretty light, but the internet, I'd say, is ablaze. Our chat's been ablaze. I'm very excited to get to this one, as we all are. So, Mr. Mutz, obviously last week was kind of, just a fun little side episode. Got some mojo, got some cool visuals, set up for next week's episode, which is the second part of Life Death. So we'll be following up on that. But this week, what did you think about returning to our fellow X-Men and what they've been up to?
Yeah, this was a heavy hitter. I am going to remember this one, that's for sure. This just has the prime relationship drama of this is probably like peak X-Men animated series relationship drama, so it was really fun for that. But then there's also a ton of other stuff, a ton of other things going on. Really high stakes, really intense episode. We get to go to Genosha, which I don't think is a huge spoiler to say, but I really liked going to see what the new Genosha is looking like. That was a really fun time. A lot of kind of Easter eggs or like weird random side characters in there as well. So I really, really enjoyed this episode. Definitely had some tears in my eyes by the end of it. So that just goes to show how hard this animated show is going. That it went all the way to tears for me. I will say though, there is an element of this episode, and I don't want to spoil things, but I think depending on what we see, probably not next week, because next week's going to be the second part of that two-parter of Storm thing. Maybe the week after when we get more resolution, I could kind of retroactively dock some points, or I guess in this case, some Emma Frost thumbs off this episode, just depending on how certain things resolve. So I'll leave it at that for now without getting too into the spoilers. But if it resolves in a good way, I think it would just make this episode even better. So I had a really great time here once again. This show is just fucking amazing.
Mr. Field?
So I watched it this morning, and I got into your DMs right away, Travis. Because I was like, holy fuck, this is crazy. This is blowing my mind.
You let this man in your DMs? That's the early hours.
His blue
He
blue
sent me
bush
$5
Send you a picture of his blue bush over here.
I have a Patreon for my DMs, and if you want that link,
That's an OnlyFans, sir. That's what that's called.
That's true. Blue
So-
Bush, Travis's Blue Bush. Travis. Go check it out.
This episode was phenomenal. It's kind of like a weekly tradition, because Wednesday mornings are now X-Men and Star Wars for me and my daughter. She loves watching this stuff. She's getting into it, so it's super exciting. And this was just fan-freaking-tastic of an episode. Oh my gosh, it was just I think I woke up Madison, because she sleeps in usually when I get up early. She comes downstairs. I'm like, oh, this just happened. And oh my god, I'm just shocked at what they did in this episode. I can't believe some of the turns that this episode had. I feel like the show, our kids, like, obviously I'm watching it with my daughter and she's very, very young, but like, our actual kids tuning into this, because I feel like this show has so many caterances to the adult crowd, especially the crowd that grew up with the original series and that has grown into the more mature adult kind of part of their life, and they can tune into this show now, and especially this episode. There's so many things going on. It's like, oh my god, like the heat that is emanating from so many different character moments in this episode. It's just like, oh, like, it's just riveting. So
Just watching some softcore porn over there apparently, this episode. Jeez.
it's just it blew my mind. But when you sprinkle in the degree of risk and just chaos that's just typical X-Men chaos, but like add a lot more to that mixture as well that's factored into this episode, it blows my mind. And there's just, as I said, so many turns that just left me unexpectedly craving more. And for a animated show to do what they did in this episode, just to be on par with what we get in some bigger projects in the MCU, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how this show, less than 30 minutes, and it just is just hitting those peak higher tiers of Marvel stuff that I really, really want. And I'm so thankful that we did that retrospective, because I can really appreciate what we got in this episode. It has a lot of depth to it. So if you haven't watched all those other seasons, you should probably watch them
back
to
now.
really feel the weight of this episode.
Before you watch this episode, you need to go back and watch the entire series, and then listen to our entire retrospective, and then you can go watch this episode.
Skip no episodes either. There is no filler.
Yeah.
It's all
filler.
lead up to this. Yeah.
And even if there is filler, we make that filler better. You know, if you probably don't even know what, like, for anybody that's, I guess, it would be for watching and stuff like this. But you know, Bone Breaker, like, you don't know the legend of him, but you want to know. So go check out those episodes. There's some Geek First gold in those episodes. I'm telling you, it's worth it for that. To answer your question, kids are watching it. Gwen she's 2 episodes behind, so I'm excited to watch them with her. But I think it's definitely made for the people that grew up with it. And if there's kids that watch it, then great. But I think they're fully after the people that were kids in the 90s. And I don't think it's almost like Force Awakens, where it's like, oh, we're gonna try and get the old and the new. This feels like, oh, if we get some of the new kids, great. But we're definitely just trying to get the 90s like adults now and the nostalgia. Right. That's how I think, because I think this is like way more mature than the original show. So I think that's definitely the demo is us our age, you know, around there. Right. So Mr. Patzer, are you happy about this episode? Yeah.
Are we happy about this episode? I truly just think this is peak. This is like peak TV right now. This episode is one of the best animated episodes I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of animated things in my day. This reminds me of some of like the best anime episodes, not just like best anime out there, but like best episodes of anime. There's so much going on here. There's the relationship drama, as Dylan was mentioning. There is just some beautiful action in this episode, and like the animators, man, I tip my hat to them. Like they are just doing some things that they were not able to accomplish in the 90s that we were experiencing that first show. And you know, some of that's maybe due to the limitations of the technology of their time, but this show just seems like such a step up, like production wise, of what the first show is, and even story wise as well. I think there's some great moments in here. I was totally in tears by the end of this episode, and I was just like shocked that this isn't even the penultimate episode. This isn't the finale. This isn't like the end of an amazing season. This is just the end of an episode, but I was totally in tears by the end of it. And I think it was so well done. I was about to say a spoiler, so I'm glad I caught myself there. But I definitely recommend the show. If you have any doubts, I feel like this, I don't know, every week it's just getting, I don't want to say better and better, because I feel like last week's episode was my least favorite, but man, jumping from that one to this one, such a great show, and I'm just so excited to see what's going to happen. I think they are doing so many things right, and really just making me trust them, I think, with some of the decisions that they're making with characters, because there has been some changes for sure just going into this new season or this new version of the show, whether it's relationships with certain characters, but I just think they're fully nailing it with it. Like they're having some risky plays, actually. I guess I would say, like, definitely some bold decisions on certain dynamics, but I think it's totally just pulling through, at least for my own sake. And yeah, no, it's really, really good. Really good.
I don't know if it's like, because like you said with last week, I don't know if it's that the show's getting better, but I feel like this is the appointment episode that it gets on other people's radar, or people that are putting it off. It definitely, I won't say the name of certain episodes, but I feel like there's 2 episodes particular for Game of Thrones people compare it to. This one I think is old enough to, I don't even want to say it. It doesn't even matter. I'm sure people see it, but like there's certain episodes or finales in Dexter that's like, oh, that had everyone talking, right? And it's like, if you weren't watching it, then you started to, and I've seen that a lot. And, yeah, I echo what everyone says here. This is I same thing. I'm sitting there 1 a.m. bawling my eyes. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm about to go to bed. I messaged Taylor, and then I showed you guys the creator of the show that got fired a couple weeks ago. Sent me a tweet on my biggest tweet ever. 1.5 thousand likes, seen by 70,000 people. I finally beat some Taylor. Taylor's on Twitter like 2 weeks, and he'll tweet something that trends. But I got my own trending tweet. Yeah, pray. But yeah, this episode was so good, and this is probably why some of those my tweet is like trending a little, because they're like MCU haters. This episode was so good that it made me worry for when the MCU does the X-Men, because I'm like, man, it's like with Endgame, it's like when we got that's like, oh well, this should be it, because this is the end of the whole saga, right? But when I'm getting this on a 37-minute episode on a random Tuesday, I'm like, man. And granted, of course, 5 seasons of build up, nostalgia, of course, but it's not just that. It's not just nostalgia. It's not just, yes, there's certain things that have to go in place for the big reveals and surprises for the 5 years to work, but there's other things that's just like the pacing of the episodes are great, or the dynamic of the characters are great, or like so the action. This is easily, the last 15 minutes is like the best action the show has ever seen. Like they have certain characters just looking so cool, and like just doing things that you just would love to see and love to imagine, and stuff that obviously they were, a little constricted back in the 90s. They did what they could. Like they still had a budget, of course, but well, maybe not season 5. We talked about season 5. They lost on the budget there, but this is any of the artwork that I had a problem with that's not here. I just love, and that's my other thing is I love like what you're talking about, Taylor, how mature it is. That's the part where I worry when we get to the movies. There's so much things in here where I'm like, I don't know if they're going to do this. I don't know if they're going to do this. I don't know if they're going to do this. So I'm just so thankful this exists, because other than actual comics, this is the best piece of X-Men media that's ever happened, whether it's the live action movies. Like I maybe have to sit and simmer on it a bit to like how it compares with that and Logan, because like Logan is like, to me is like, that's like the Dark Knight, where it's like better, way in a whole different stratosphere. So if it's not better than Logan, it's tied. It's something where when that Strange episode came out with What If, it's like, oh, that was a really great piece of MCU, but it's like there's still things that were better. There's like, I don't think the MCU has done anything this good since like Loki season 1 or No Way Home. Like this is like really good stuff. And obviously, and the reason I brought up the tweet, not just to brag, but I really hope that guy, which this sounds bad, but I really hope that guy was fired for like a really good reason. And it wasn't just like an OnlyFans or had some nudes online, because him and whoever else we've talked about, they're talking to writers. They want to have a writer by the end of the year for the X-Men. Whether it's him or even the people that are left that wrote the show, stop having meetings. You got the crew. This is the crew right here. You already have them in-house. I don't care that they're animator writers. Doesn't matter. Like, give them the ball. This stuff is so good. This is the best thing Disney Plus. I know some people went back with Shogun. Oh, that's on. I meant Disney Plus proper. There is stuff on Hulu that's great, but I'm talking Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, whatever the fuck, like, who's that lightning kid? Who's the Olympic guy? Percy, yeah, whatever he falls under. Like, in the Disney stratosphere, not Searchlights, that stuff, it's up there. Like, I could only name a few, like Loki finale season 1, that Andor episode was Circus, probably a WandaVision episode somewhere in there, but this is up there with the big dogs. And I didn't expect that with this show. I expected it to be good and a fun time, and I thought we'd have a good time. I thought we'd have the same amount of praise and good time that we did with the original series, right? Where there might be a stinker here and there, and then something really fun, something like Bone Breaker would come up. But I did not think we'd be talking about this, like, I guess with the MCU awards this year, it's not that big because there's only Deadpool. But like, this would have stacked up to me with last year or other years, like, just phenomenal. And it's one of these things that even if, let's say, the rest of the episodes suck, just this episode alone is so good as like a contained episode in a way. Nothing can really affect it other than what Dylan's going to talk about, which I feel like I understand, and we'll see if it gets that route. But I think they're gonna hold their guns to certain things, just with certain things people have been saying. So yeah, just phenomenal stuff. If you're not watching the show, go watch the show. Get on the bandwagon, especially if you're an X person. Like, you're gonna get the hype. So anything else on spoilers? We've all recommended it. We've all praised it.
Nothing else.
Okay,
No spoilers.
let's do this. So yeah, if you've not seen it, this is definitely one. If you've been before, oh, it's an anime show, whatever. This is one you want to go watch and come back. So we'll take our break and we'll be right back. And we are back. So where do we want to start at the very big stuff? Do we want to go in sections? Do we go from beginning to end? Where we go? Because there is like a huge for 37 minutes, and this is for before your hand goes up. Done. When we talk about episodes in the MCU, it's like, oh man, it's only 30 minutes. All live action shows take note. Like, you can do amazing stuff with 37 minutes, even less than that. Like, this is under 40 minutes, and look at how good this is. You know.
Well, I'd like to see the budget of this in live action. I mean, it'd be quite a bit higher.
No, not that. I mean the sense that when we see the live action runtimes, when we're like, oh fuck, like I get what you mean, but even before the big set piece happened in the I'd say the third act of the episode, the whole episode up to that point is still great. Like the relationship dynamics, what's happening politically. Like, of course, you can't pay for a master mold set, no, but I'm just meaning like the range of it.
So I wanted to ask you guys about this because I actually watched this episode twice, mostly because there was just so much going on, and I was, as I'm watching it, I'm like writing notes, and then I like miss something, and then I'd like go back, and then I ended up just watching it a whole second time, and which I'm glad I did. But one thing I was a little confused about was we have this kind of opening of the episode. It starts out with like a documentary on the X-Men, which I think is really fun. They have like a CRT filter over it to make it look like, something that would happen in the 90s. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on there. But one of them is that eventually Jean and Cyclops are sitting on the bed and they're having a conversation. And then like another Jean, I guess it's like Madeline Pryor, like kind of comes in through that shadow realm, whatever they call it. And it kind of breaks up their conversation. And then Jean starts questioning him. And I was just very confused about what exactly was going on there. Like, at that moment, was Madeline Pryor, like, trying to communicate with him? And then, like, Jean was there and interrupted or intercepted or caught onto it? Or was it more that, I guess, that she just, like, looked into his mind and saw that happening? Or was it something else entirely?
So it's funny. I don't know, because I've read all these classic histories a long time ago, and I don't know if Madeline Pryor and him did it, but this could be playing off, because it's funny. After that scene happens, the first person is Emma Frost. In the comics, notoriously, Cyclops had an affair with Emma Frost, but how they got away with it was so long is they did it in each other's mind. So it's like a FaceTime. It's very similar to what Rey and Kylo did in Last Jedi and Force, where they could teleport using their minds. So that's what's happening, is they are pretty much having an affair using their minds. So Scott's sitting in his bed, she's sitting at the meeting, but in their minds, they're macking and getting it on. So Jean probably sees Scott just sitting on the bed, massive heart on, and saying like, man, what's he just doing, sitting in the mansion so hard? She goes into his mind, and probably because she did before that scene, she said to Wolverine that her and Scott used to do it all the time. So I love that they set it up that Jean said her and Scott used to telepathically talk. So she probably think, oh man, is he doing that with her? So that's what's happening. They're having an affair in using the brainwave. So it is like it's not happening, but it is happening with their consciousness. They're getting it on.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. And because I was confused at first too, when it is you got Madeline and Jean, and they look very similar, and almost similar clothes, and you just got big Jean pop up with the head like, what are you doing? But I have to say, because I was talking about this, I maybe he didn't say this. So David, my gimmick co-host, correct me if I'm wrong, but Chris thought you meant this. I've seen him, a lot of other people give Cyclops crap. What was Jean doing right before that scene happened?
She was macking with Logan.
She's macking with Logan. So she is so self-righteous right now, calling him up and like, you're doing this for mine. And don't get me wrong, I love all this. We called it. And I was like, oh, I hope, especially when Logan walked up and they were just talking about the UN and memories. I'm like, oh, they're actually not going to go that route. It's like, that was just a thing. But no, Jean she's feeling the vibes. And man, how far have we come that Logan's, oh, you've seen a lot of things in your eyes. Yeah, but no, nothing like you, Red. She blushes. I love all the blushing in this episode. She kisses him, not the other way around. She kisses him, and Wolverine somehow is like, no, this isn't right. You got to be with Scott. But she doesn't look like she agrees with that. And he's like, how full circle we've come. That's when I messaged you, The Rock, you can feel the mana at whatever at late night. And that happens, like, my goodness. Oh.
Yeah, no, I mean, just mentioning about people, giving Scott crap or whatnot. I definitely felt from Gene being so aggressive on Scott in that moment. Like, it's one thing that he is, talking to the old Gene, Madeline Pryor, in these moments, but from her stance, it was just like she couldn't possibly even understand like how he could be like thinking about this other person, which for me it did not make sense at all, because he literally had a child with Madeline Pryor, which he thought was Gene. So the reason why he's so in love with Madeline Pryor is because he's so in love with Gene, and it just like went that way. He didn't choose to, I want a clone of Gene that's not like Gene at all, and then I like, fuck Gene. I'm just gonna have a life with Madeline Pryor. Because in that moment, like, if the roles were reversed and Scott got cloned and the regular Jean Grey had a child with clone Scott, and then regular Scott comes in and like he's all pissed off at Jean. It's like, how could you even be thinking about that child right now? It's like, that's his child that he had like with the person that he fell in love with. So from her perspective, that moment, I wasn't really in agreement from her stance. I get to an extent if especially if like now we know what we know, Madeline went her separate way, and Scott should just be focusing on Jean. It's one thing to be like still chatting up with Madeline Pryor, doing these little, I don't know, psychic FaceTime meetings. Yeah, that's one thing. But like, it's a whole other thing to just be like, I can't believe, like, she was just so aggressive, and I felt it.
They were making out though in the thing. They weren't just talking. Remember, Cyclops and Madeline.
I know,
were
but
making
it
out.
escalated, and she just, her stance was if it's like she couldn't even comprehend how he could be thinking this way, and it's just really like, if the roles were reversed, man, like that's not really.
But
clean,
but
in
that's
my
why I
opinion.
wonder, she didn't break it up till they were kissing, right? So was she just watching and be like, okay, they're just talking about their son, I get it. And then
Yeah.
once they're swapping spit, it's like, how dare she turned in the storm, literally like, the gods of thunder, you not kiss my man.
Yeah,
you know?
you make a point there for sure. I think it's more so of just like the ammo that she brought to the argument, like that set her off, and then she just brought in these other things where it's like, okay, she's right in some accounts, but like these other things, I don't know if you have the full stance to go that far, but
That's
yeah,
why I like
it
they're
is
both
tricky
right and wrong in
situation.
some accounts.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I like when Scott, she's like, oh, I love you. He's like, well, do you remember you love me, or do you feel like you love me? And she couldn't give him an answer. So that's what I love too. It's like both of them have like, they're both in a very confusing situation, and their show's doing that very well.
And just the whole dynamic between having Scott with these two different genes, like that's just such a head trippy scenario that the original show, like like none of that was even like like no plot lines to that extent even showed up. Like half of what this is, like the show is just going for some wild things, and that's just one thing. We haven't even mentioned, well, I guess we have been talking about Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit. This episode kind of gave us a lot more filler, or not filler, just I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? Some more info, I guess. Some more looking behind the curtains there.
Yes.
But
a lot of context.
I like too that we or Jean specifically mentioned that, you know, even when she had the Phoenix inside of her, she still came back for him, even though all these people needed her, which is a fun callback, but also, yeah, once again, like it is such a complex issue, and she mentions to Logan that, like, for the last while he's been pretty distant, like they haven't really been talking. They mentioned that a month has gone by too since I guess the last time we've seen this crew, which is interesting because last week we were talking about like how long was this period of time that Storm was with Forge, and that's still up in the air because we have this second parter of it as well. We don't know where that's going to line up with the rest of the crew's timeline. But yeah, it seems like that maybe is more time than I thought it was, like specifically the Storm and Forge stuff. But yeah, like a whole month has gone by. That's a long time for them to kind of be separate, and for Cyclops to be building this bond, and for Jean to like it's kind of unclear like what she's kind of been doing in that time. So I don't know. Were you guys kind of surprised to hear that time jump that we went for?
I was glad we just got a time, as we talked about Forge and Storm. We're like,
yeah, it is nice to have a number for sure.
Yeah, I think I'd love to see a replay of what the Mansion's been up to, because that has to be the most awkward month for everyone else living there. It just has to be awful. But I think she's just like what that scene with Logan when she walks up with the memories. I think she's just probably doing that. She's just like rewatching, replaying things, and trying to figure out
piece
where
it all together.
she looped out. So I think that's probably it, and I like that they gave some context there.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been quiet.
First things first, I was just thinking hypothetically, if Beast was able to analyze the genetic structure between Madeline Pryor and Jean Grey and deduce that, okay, this Jean is much younger than the other Jean, Couldn't he technically figure out how many years her body has aged and then think,
doesn't
okay,
have that
this is when they were
bachelorette.
swapped? Oh, okay.
He stopped. He didn't take that class. He took all the other classes, but not the aging process one. So
Oh, of course.
yeah,
course.
it sucks. I think yes, there should be a way, but they'll headcanon like, no,
I don't
just
think
doesn't-
I'd
he
like
doesn't wanna admit
that
it.
if that was what the solution was. If we just got that as a plot point. Oh yeah, I deduced via your DNA that it has been exactly 348 days. I think that would bother me. That would feel too sci-fi and weird and unrealistic in a world where there's such crazy shit going on. That would be the thing that would be the feather on the camel's back for me, I think.
Okay. Regarding the relationship, I'm on Team Gene. I think there's some merit to Scott, obviously, because
we're
he's
doing that now,
absolutely
eh?
in love with Madeline Pryor. The relationship built up, everything like that. But I mean, I'm with Jean. You know, she's kissing Logan because she's feeling like kicked out. Like
Wait.
the last thing she knew was Scott was there for her and was about Jean, right?
Erroneous on all counts.
And so
hang on, I want to clarify your team thing before you. Are you team like you think she's right? Are you team just like yeah, go get it, girl? Like you were like yeah, she's making out Logan.
I'm
Hell yeah,
team
like
she's right. She's right.
okay, because your example of like
you think it's
yeah,
right for
she
her to
should-
kiss Logan? Does that help her case?
I think it's
get it,
not right
girl.
for her to confuse the situation, but I think
Yeah.
she's confused herself because she's feeling conflicted because she's being resented by Scott, and Scott's priorities are not her. All of Scott's priorities are focused on his son, and you just have Madeline Pryor having mind sex with him too, which isn't helping the case either. So I think
Hell yeah.
her feeling resentment is definitely one of the factors that is pushing her towards kissing Logan because she came back thinking I need to see Scott. Scott's there for me. Scott's going to give me the love and affection I need. She's getting none of that. So who comes in
fair.
to fill that? It's Logan. Logan's like, oh, you know, hey, you're red.
He's
you know,
not
red
though.
for me.
That's different though. He's not. He's dropping nice little things, but he walked away. He could have did her in that yard right there. Logan could have had his way, but he was a gentleman. He walked away. But
He's a gentleman.
I
He's
think
a
it's
gentleman. And I think
I
next
guarantee
time,
he went over to
next time,
Morph
he's
and
going
just got
for it.
one out via Morph.
Morph, danger room, 5 minutes. Let's go. Or the shower. They meet in
Yeah,
the
the
shower.
shower,
Oh,
yeah.
Logan. Oh yeah. I don't think I can be rightfully on. Usually, because we, even back to Spider-Man retro. Dylan did it was like Team MJ, Team Felicia. I literally can't be on any team. I'm 50 because
Yeah, it's a great gray area for sure.
Yeah, to me, there's no. I'm just like you can't. I guess I'm against Tay. I'm like you can't be Team Scott and you can't be Team Gene. Like it's way too messy situation to go on. So and that's where it's the same thing too. Is like for this month, it's the same thing of like okay, she's trying to do this and be there for Scott, but like Scott said, is she just doing that because that's what she feels she has to do, but she doesn't really love him? She's like, well. In this, like, I was married and I did love Scott, so it's kind of like if you just woke up, like, what's that stupid movie? Oh, Emily, what's that movie with Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams?
Oh, About Time.
Not About Time. No, remember she goes in a coma and the vow. That's what happens
Oh,
where he's
yeah.
married. To she goes in a coma. She doesn't remember him at all, so he's trying to make her fall in love with her again. McAdams is like, I don't love you, dude. Like, I don't even know you. So that's where it's like a tough thing for her, where I think she's kind of almost lying to herself. Like, yeah, I'm here for Scott. And that's why he called her out. Like, do you remember that or do you feel that? And she didn't answer. So that's why I like. And like I said, Scott's not. That's not the right thing. It's fine to. I don't know if it's fine to talk to Madeline. That's what you have to talk to Gene about. But they're just they're doing it in the dream. So
They're
that's not.
mind-fucking.
They're mind fucking literally. So there's steps being crossed by both of them. But I'm so happy because I think they are gonna break up, and I think we're getting Logan and Gene at least for a short run. And man, I cannot wait. I think even if it's a fling, I think that at least by the end of it's tough because in that 3-parter, they might put them back together. But I was not expecting Madeline Pryor to be back in play so quickly. I thought it
Yeah.
might be in those final 3 episodes, even next season. But the fact she's just like, I'm here on Genosha, and they're just like, yeah, 2 Genes are better than 1. I'm like, well, that's not the case for Gene and Scott, but that's cool. So I legitimately think Scott might go to Madeline or Emma, because we got introduced to Emma again, and I
Oh,
think they're
yeah.
gonna give Logan and Gene at least like I could see that being the final episode that they kiss and Logan embraces her this time, and then it's like, oh man, they are actually together. Let's fucking go for a bit. I think they won't. They're not end game, but I think it's gonna happen for a little bit. So exciting
There's enough
times.
genes to go around. Everybody can be happy.
Yeah, you got Morph there as a
yeah.
third one in the pickle.
And it's like it'd be different if the real Jean wasn't vibing with Logan, but she clearly is, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, well, she kind of wants Logan and wants to see what's going on there. And if he kind of like is, having some late night calls with Madeline, it's like feels like a good like handshake. Hey, let's maybe pick this up down the line, but let's see what's going on, and perfect. She could stay at the mansion. He goes to the Genosha. Obviously, we'll talk about what the state, but I mean, like they could go to different areas, right? Like this is a good, clean break. So
it could be cordial. Yeah,
could be.
I want to touch upon that scene again with Logan and Jean.
Yes.
I haven't read the comics. I don't know how much of a connection there is there, but I just saw this scene. I thought this seems like X-Men Last Stand.
X3.
She's back.
Totally.
Yeah, she's back in the water, right, doing her thing. Does she just have an affinity for water? Is that something she has going on, or?
No, I think water is just popular in our everyday life. It's a common use in many shows, video games, movies.
Substance
it
of
pops
life,
up.
Taylor.
But Taylor, almost it's like I don't know the beginning of times, but I'd say from the '90s to now, there's always been a triangle between the three. The most recent comic is now they're a throuple. They're just together. They have conjoining bedrooms, so even Scott and Wolverine have got it on. They are like gay together. Like they just decided that's the best way, and that actually is the best way for the three of them. I'm completely in agreement with that they'll never do them in the movies. You're never going to have them promoting a throuple in an MCU Avengers Endgame 2 movie.
First teaser trailer for the new X-Men. It's like Challengers.
Like 50 Shades. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But yes, in the comics, they're always a dynamic, those three.
Is there like a 5 dynamic relationship with Madeline Pryor and
no, in the comics, she I feel like she was evil for much longer when that did go down, and I think she kind of goes away eventually. Usually, his other muse is Emma. That's usually the one that is between him and Jean. So there's been similar situation. Yeah, she's got good thumbs. Similar situation where Jean was dead and he went with Emma, but Emma's more his muse. So
okay. I guess either this can sideways to another topic here, or we can talk about something else. But with Madeline Pryor, I liked how she was paying attention to Gambit in this episode. She's very tentative. I thought there was like some nice compassion there. Again, this episode was so unpredictable. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was
worried. I was real worried for a second.
You thought he was going to be like, Madeline, let's go.
Yeah.
I thought it was 100% going to go that way too. Especially
really?
I thought it was going to be a Magneto and Rogue, and then you have Madeline Pryor come in to console Gambit, but
they're both missing some. Like that's what I thought. Maybe not a relationship, but I felt like a one night stand's coming because just when he leaves his drink and she goes to follow him, like where are they gonna end up? So I'm happy. I'm not happy what happened because some other stuff. But I thought I was like with Kirkland. I thought Madeline and Gambit were gonna get it on, and then it'd be even more awkward for Cyclops. He's here at Genosha, and then
I like the potential too of what that was gonna be, especially just thinking of like Jean and Gambit always kind of being at each other's throats,
right?
Especially in the kitchen and
man.
whatnot. So to have this other version of Jean like coming into just console him, like I did like that dynamic there. But I mean, what happened was
you're right though. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because like this Jean Pryor has also been beefing with him too. So it is kind of weird that she had this change of heart, but maybe it's just the circumstance. And a month has passed. She's kind of really embracing maybe a new identity, and he hasn't seen him in a while, misses him, that kind of thing. So I guess
I think it's also but I also think it's just she's seeing the exact same dynamic happen to him that just happened to her. Where in her mind now, obviously that mind thing just happened with Jean, but she might think that Cyclops and Jean are figuring out are going to be all right? So it's like she's the Gambit scenario where we'll get to it. Rogue and Magneto, way too much PTA, like in front of, like you didn't have to go that far. This whole like, it was awesome, badass, so cool. They're dancing in the sky. We'll get to where they are, but Gambit just has to sit there and watch. So I think that's where I bought that. Even if they've had like maybe they don't get along, but she is seeing that, oh man, this just happened to me a month ago where I was in love with someone, and now it's like, hey, you're not allowed to be with that person. That's what's happening with Gambit, right? Is you're in love with Rogue, but they're gonna go get married and be fucking queen and king, whatever their weird titles are gonna be. So that's where I think the bond was of, oh man, I've been in your situation. So I like that. And there's, I guess, no other X-Men there too, right? They're just a bunch of people drinking and having a good time. So I'm glad Madeline made that overture to him to try to help him out a little, but I guess we should talk about let's talk about that before we get to the big stuff. So I guess the only thing, do we have anything to say on the actual newscast? We had Cyclops lose it on a reporter because she's grilling him on, hey, you had a son and yet you had as Taylor says, the blue blush. Beast, who knows, maybe we did find something Beast is going to be up to because he's been doing shit all this season. If there's any negative against this show so far, Beast is like kind of around, but they're doing a big report on trying to make people less scared of the X-Men and the mutants, but that clearly didn't go well. And I think is there anything else I missed at the beginning before they left for Genosha?
Not for me.
No. Is there anything in that portion news, Beast? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna just emphasize the moment when Scott just totally snaps. I really like that because it just really, I guess, showed the mental strain that this poor bastard's been under for just these last. Well, I guess it's been a month since that incident there, but like losing his child is such a serious thing, and if he's able to just be like super cool in this documentary, just trying to like shake hands, kiss babies, sort of thing, like be almost a political figure for the in-between of the regular folk and the X-Men representing all mutants. I did like when he just totally freaked. It showed that he is like, he's a mutant, but he's showing these human characteristics and responding how someone would definitely understandably react, just being grilled about like just trying to put on like a happy face to be that in between of humans and mutants. I just really like that moment. I feel like Scott usually is always Mr. Boy Scout, and when he does whine, it comes off whiny, and I'm just like, Scott, you're so whiny. But here, it really felt justified, and I did like seeing that here. It felt warranted for sure, especially coming off of the last appearance, not last week's episode, but the one prior.
Yeah, I'm sure what do you think is more stressful, the Phoenix situation or this situation? Probably the Phoenix, I guess, right? Because that's world ending, but still, they're pretty.
That's probably
I think
pretty
this
close.
one personally, because it's just so close.
Yeah.
Like it's
I guess when your child's involved,
newborn,
that's pretty stressful.
Yeah, the child he knew for like a couple days, and that's
Yeah.
it. And then tough. Been a tough couple of years for Mr. Summers,
Mm-hmm.
No grays either. He's still got just really nice young looking looks. No
he's
wrinkles
dying
on
it
him
for sure. He's in there.
He's dying it. You think?
Yeah.
Part of his mutant power, I think.
Yeah. I don't know why. I know we saw the photo a couple weeks ago, but I got a giggle out of the photo of him, Alan Pryor, and he's in his X uniform with the baby. We had seen that before, but I guess I didn't notice just all that. It looks like a video game cover, and then there's a baby. It was just like, it got a giggle out of me.
It looks strange, I will admit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then, they go to Genosha, the other characters. It's Gambit, Rogue, and Magneto. Starting off very hot because Magneto is taking any chance he can to take a shot at Magneto or at Gambit, being like, if this crashes, you're the worse for wear because you can't fly. When they land and he talks to Madeline, he's like, I don't even know why Gambit came. He's taking every chance he can. And the pitch is, hey, we get to Genosha, we get to see huge statues of Xavier and Magneto. It is a thriving. It's not Krakoa, but there's a new thing when I told you about the thruple, where X-Men created their own like countries and they were away. You couldn't enter unless you were a mutant. And it's like not the clubby and stuff, but it was like a society of all these mutants living together in like unison. This was like fucking mutant utopia. They get there, they're clubbing, they have their own restaurants, everything, and there's a lot of people, Sebastian Stan, Emma Frost, like villains, but they're all getting along. And the pitch is that, hey, Magneto is going to be the top of it, but they want someone, like, not everyone trusts Magneto, so what could we do? Well, what if you had an X-Men, like, kind of marry? It sounds like arranged marriage, right? And that's Magneto's pitch is, hey, Rogue, let's get married. And she's like, is that the only reason you've been doing this? But he says, no, I still care for you, but you got to kind of leave Gambit. So that's the pitch. She goes to Remy. We hear the whole situation of how they met up, and then we'll get into other stuff too. And then they go for the dance floor, and like we talked about, they have this in-air dance where they're touching. The most central thing I think I've seen on all of Disney Plus of that moment where she puts her arms up and he like puts his hands down her chest and then kisses her. I'm like, what is happening? I haven't seen this even in like a Marvel show, because like the MCU shows, they don't fuck at all. So crazy stuff going on. Dylan, what do you think about all this leading up to before we get to the big stuff? But I'd say from the landing to the nightclub.
Yeah, no, I think Genosha is just such a fun place. I love just the music we had when we were going there was very like whimsical, and it was just so upbeat and happy for a mutant setting, which is so often just sad and oppressive, and obviously it ends up like that by the end of the episode. But even just those few moments were really nice. Getting to see Leech in there, and I think that was Pixie, who was recently added to Marvel Snap. That pink blob skeleton dude was so cool. I love that guy so much. Nightcrawler, there's just like Dazzler and multiple men are doing a little dance together in the streets. I love that it's just such this place for like the arts and for people to be themselves. But then there's also like this underlying element where Gambit cracks some joke about how like an apple is like $10, and so maybe they're still figuring stuff out there. But I just really liked being there for the short time we got, and I hope there's more of it. I hope this wasn't just the complete destruction of this place, but I guess that leads into my my potential beef with the episode, which we can talk about a bit later on. But no, everything just kind of getting introduced into Genosha, I thought was so fun. Just as a place, as a people, and the way that Asgard's always been boring as fuck to me, like Genosha had so much personality. So I hope that we get more of it in the future.
Yeah, I love seeing this new skin on Genosha. It's just complete opposite of, I feel like, what we've seen it before, especially when it was, just basically a prison, a land of prison.
Slave camp, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So to come to this where it's almost like a Wakanda, right? Like it just seems like it's totally thriving. It seems like it's an advanced city on just comparing it to other human capitals throughout the world. Like it really was popping. I love just the festival style of it, and yeah, just like it being a safe haven for mutants and just them really like not necessarily showcasing their powers but not hiding it. I think it was really cool to just see the mixed bag, the melting pot that was just like the different types of mutants there, and everybody just being super happy, and it just basically being party time. It's like Mardi Gras for mutants. It was awesome to see, and I assumed that we were going to Genosha just because I had mentioned before, but to actually see it was a whole nother thing, and I really loved. Yeah, it was a great place to be in the X-Men universe. A great setting, especially for some big action that is to follow, because it's just so happy and positive, and then by the end of the episode, it's just like a complete opposite, flipped 180, and
yeah, this change of aesthetic, and I think it's great that they were able to turn this place from being such a negative location to something that's just truly bountiful for mutants. And you have human there too. What was her name? Oh gosh,
Moira
yes,
McTaggart.
thank you. Cool to see she's kind of on the council of higher ups there, and I think that's really cool to have that human kind of connection in the leadership. So I think that everything that they've been doing is wonderful, and I just love seeing just everyday life. And we get the Nightcrawler popping in there, giving a tour of the grounds, which is super cool. I really like that, and I just thought that it was just so wonderfully world building, quality of life, the kind of just little things they're putting in there that I could have taken another whole half hour of them just going around, just interacting and seeing everything and how things are going. Like the cool advertisements too. There was one that was basically like cosmetically aimed towards, like, if you have horns or antlers as a mutant kind of thing, like getting your nails kind of done, sort of stuff. So there's lots of cool little things in the background that's just marketed towards mutants specifically that I thought was really cool. There's attention to details, which I appreciate. And getting to where they are at the, I guess, the whole meeting or whatever. Yeah, you talked about that, Travis. Yeah, just that intimate dancing was something else. Oh my goodness, that was hot and heavy. They
were moving
very
good
spicy.
too. For people that probably haven't taken lessons, like, I feel like dancing while flying can't be.
Maybe that's
easy.
what they were doing in the danger room when all those sessions were happening.
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like we got confirmation that they weren't getting it on per se. This was like this would have been them getting it on, because I feel with Rogue being, because what happens is they show that, like we speculated, when she was palling around with her mother, Mystique, who we will return to her in a second, but they show that that's when, and I loved the Meet Q one. I don't know. They had Rogue wearing some stuff that was very, like, they are going for a certain demographic there. But just stuff like Magneto is like painting her, but he's using his powers, and they're teaching. You get to see how their bond. But when she went up and kissed him, and then, which was, I guess at that moment she just decided, I was caught off guard that she did this whole big dance and kissed him, but then said, "Oh no, I'm gonna still stick with Gambit." But to me, that was implying that they weren't an item before. It was just Magneto courting her and trying to make it happen. But yeah, what do you guys think about all the revelations of when we met Rogue and Magneto, and her turning him down for Gambit after Gambit kind of not like stepped aside? He pulled like Logan did earlier, where he said, "Well, if this is the case, what it's gonna have to be, then so be it."
I thought it was a shockingly mature response from Gambit, and I was proud of him for that. Now it seems like it's been weeks or I guess a month at this point, maybe more, of him kind of seeing the situation between Rogue, him and Magneto, and realizing that he's maybe the third chair in that dynamic there. But man, that line that Rogue has where she says, "You can light everything up except for me," that just like cut deep. That was really intense. And then he has the comeback line with "Some things are deeper than skin," and that's obviously the line that she brings back when she's with Magneto there. So I thought all of that was just really well written, really well done. I really like too how Magneto's trying to make Rogue his queen, and we've talked about how like she's kind of the empathy part of that, like the heart element of it. And I love that the whole time Gambit's just playing with the Queen of Hearts, and then he like chucks it into the fire and it burns away. I thought the symbolism of that was really well done. And then I also really like the dynamic when we're going into the backstory there of Rogue and how she can feel everyone's emotions, and obviously with Magneto, like her powers don't work in that way, but she can still feel his emotions and all these issues that he has, and that's kind of been like a blockade for them too. So I just feel like we got like so many different layers going on there, and just all the dialogue was fucking spot on. It was so good, such memorable lines, and just a really well like edited sequence too. So I was a really big fan of that. And then the one little Easter egg I really liked was in that flashback sequence when they're in the library. Rogue has a book called Savage Land, Savage Hearts, which is the name of one of the two-parters, the Savage Land two-parters from the original series. Cool. So I thought that was a really cool detail. I wonder what other kind of little episode titles they've kind of had hidden, referenced in this show in the background, or newspaper clippings or things like that. I'm sure there's a lot of it. So just once again, showing that the people making this show love and watch that original show as well. So really appreciated it.
Well, and like you're talking about the lines, that's hence my name, is Magneto just saying, because that's what I liked, is he compared him and Gambit, and he says, "Loving you makes broken men whole." And it's so funny, we talked about last week or the week before, we're like, oh, who's going to strike first? And it never ended up that way. They both took their shots, but Gambit ended up walking away. And then when we get to the finale, they had to kind of or the final parts, they had to work together. So I love that it actually never went that route of them going to blows. They just kind of, well, if you're going to, because Gambit completely understood. And I don't know, I guess there still is like it's like Magneto completely gets why Gambit loves her. So that's where that was where it's like, okay, now I don't think they actually would have fought. Maybe if it would have come down to something, but when they're having those private conversations, him and Rogue, it's like, okay, it's not really like a jealousy thing. It's just like, okay, how could I kind of, one up them, but not in the Logan and Cyclops sense, right? Where it was always a very chest puffy, like I'm better, that sort of way. But yeah, good stuff there.
Yeah, I was equally as proud of Gambit being able to just be the bigger man in that moment. Like, it's so easy to be the whiny person of, like, especially if it's this person that you've just been in love with like for years now, and you've never been able to be in the situation that you can like full on touch them. And then here's this handsome guy with long hair, coming in, leader of the X-Men, taking the woman that you love. Not only is he taking her, but he can also just like touch her and all these things. And they've had this history in the past. Like, that's such a hard position to be in. He was a total gentleman about it, and he said that like they'll just be friends like going forward if that's kind of the place that he has to be. And like I personally think it's just such a great evolution of the character from where he has been, because he's kind of been the outlaw, like the one that isn't always in line, and just the whole team dynamic of the X-Men. But here he is, not only being super loyal to X-Men, but also just like to Magneto, which is at times been an enemy of the X-Men, and now this character is not only the leader of the X-Men but taking your woman. Like, it's a tricky dynamic, but super loyal there. I was very surprised actually with just how the whole unraveling of the Rogue situation went with Magneto, how she ended up choosing Gambit in the end. I mean, I already laid it out. I thought Madeline Pryor was going to be scooping in with Gambit. Like, it just took me for a little roller coaster ride this whole episode, just solely on the love dynamics. So yeah, I really did like how all that went off. I think like the backstory stuff, I still kind of wish that came earlier on in the season, more so just because I don't know, it wasn't as spicy as I was expecting it to be, or hoping it to be. It was Yeah, like we get these flashbacks
One
of
full
him.
on. It's fucking just.
Or just something like more
Poor Thing
complicated,
style.
I guess, where it's just like what was revealed. It's like, oh, okay, I guess that is kind of just what it was when she was, rough and toughen with her old crew, working with her mother and such. That's how she met Magneto, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's. I guess that's.
And you were fine. Like, I feel like that's like. I guess I was fine with.
I think because it took to episode 5, it should have been crazier. If they just explain that in like episode 2 or something, it's like, okay, yeah, that's interesting, but. Just the big build up and the weight, especially last week's episode, it being like so separate from that. It's like, oh man, here we go. We're going to Genosha. We're getting the backstory on all this stuff. So I don't know.
For
Minor
me, if there's
nitpick.
anything, if it wouldn't be like it wouldn't take off my points or whatever like that. But if anything, I wanted a bit more of why she left him. It just kind of felt like. Dude's kind of got some fucked up shit going on. I'm out of here. Like she was just like, oh, I could feel him in the night. His sleep troubles. It's just, and I guess she could be younger, but it just felt like he has some stuff going on. And Rogue bounced because she didn't want to deal with it. I wish there was maybe a bigger reason why. Maybe him crossing the line or doing something like even more so, being like, I don't know,
Yes.
but. Again, it's not a major thing because it's like it's abbreviated version, right? And we also did. Now, of course, they did not mean this original series, but I don't care. This will help me headcanon stuff. We always talked about what is the deal with Rogue and Gambit, right? Are they a thing? Are they dating? Are they not? Obviously, the touching thing is always an issue. But Gambit said, oh, you never wanted to become official. So now we know that's why maybe Gambit was off doing some stuff because Rogue didn't want to lock that down. Probably more so just for him because she was being like empathetic and just like being a caring person, usually what Rogue does instead of locking Gambit to a life of being with nobody and having the same thing where he can't touch anything. But I like that we got that confirmed because we've always debated that throughout the show. Like, what is the deal? And that's what it is. Where it was just a flirty on and off thing, but she didn't want to make it official. So I'm happy I got that answer.
Mm-hmm. Good to
Let's take it. Yeah, it's good to know. Let's take an ad break and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. So we'll be right back. And we are back. So there's two things I wanted to mention before actually we got to those meat and potatoes. Was one about Mystique. Did you guys see that the senator or whatever was there with them? And there is a screen grab of when Magneto says, "Oh, I'm here with Rogue," and the senator like does a full like head cock. I am believing that theory. She is Mystique. I really think it's gonna happen. Yeah. And then the other thing, did you guys see the Watcher in this episode?
I did not see the Watcher.
No.
I thought Taylor would have. Oh, did you pick him out? There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Ready. Good job.
I was like, Madison, look, Madison.
I'm like Taylor's eye. So it's right when they go. So they land on Genosha
That's
and then
cool.
they go back to X-Men stuff. And then when they go back to Genosha, it's nighttime. This happens right before the fireworks nighttime celebrations going off. And he's there. He cocks his head a little and he's watching it all go down. I thought Taylor, with your Watcher eyes, you'd find it. But yeah,
yeah.
And I never noticed that stuff. I actually caught it somehow at midnight. That's super cool that they're doing that.
That's so funny because I recognized actually that shape in the sky. I'm like, that's such a strange looking moon. Like why did they edit that in? Like it's just such a weird animation.
Looks like a guy.
Yeah, like man on the moon. Like what kind of business is this? But no, that's crazy. Good eye.
Did you catch this one, Travis?
No, this is a fake one, right?
Yeah, it's just one bullshit.
That animation looks so strange. Like it looks so different than what the show is too, or just the font at least.
That's funny.
So actually, I guess we got two big things here because man, I'm so excited to talk about this because it's been a minute and it's something that they never paid off in the original series. That's why we're reviewing them. Like I can't remember if they did or didn't or they hinted at it, but here we are. So Madeline, she says some things to Gambit. Gambit pins off. First of all, too, Gambit looking real fly in that suit. I love when Gambit's hair is down. That white like Sean Connery Bond suit. Oh yeah, he was
scarf
looking
too, man.
Yeah,
great look.
Oh, that scarf later uses a fucking weapon. Come on now, yeah. Come on now. He's just the coolest, man. But anyway, so he goes away, and man, I was just strolling, had a tough time, got caught in the throes of passion in the mine. She's helping Gambit out. There's these political things, a lot of stuff. She's just taking a stroll, and then all of a sudden in the distance, you see a very jacked up space techno looking bleach blonde hair man with one eye running to her, and he's mumbling to himself, being about it too late. Yet, he gets to Madeline, and he just says that he's sorry, and she doesn't really understand. And then for a second, his eyes flash to being back to regular eyes, the regular hazel eyes that she's seen before. And then she goes, "Oh, you survived." And then he goes, "I'm sorry." And he says, "Mom." doing the big old reveal. Now, Dylan, I have to ask you: did you get spoiled on this a couple weeks ago when you were looking up who Nathaniel Summers was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Damn.
Well, yeah, yes and no, because when I heard his name, like in that episode, I was like, oh, I swear, like I know that. I just like can't remember. So yeah, I kind of spoiled it for myself a little bit, but it was still an interesting moment in the episode for sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that they're gonna follow up on this in this season, or do you think that's gonna be something for down the line?
Well, so this is what I was mentioning at the very top is where this episode could drop off for me and be not as engaging is the same reason why I had this moment in Loki season 2. So there's spoilers for that show as well, where they do a huge episode where a bunch of people die, huge stakes, crazy shit happens. But then next episode, time travel. We just go back and all those things are undone. And yes, there's still good moments. Fucking Gambit sacrificing himself, that's going to be an iconic moment forever. But it's going to mean a whole lot less if next episode we just rolled back time and it's Cable coming back like 30 minutes earlier and telling them instead like, oh, here's what's going to happen, and them actually fighting it off because they have the preparation and everyone lives, which I kind of feel like they're going to do because so many fucking people died. And so that's where that's where there's something on the top of my head that's like, yeah, if they do that, it's not going to mean as much for me. It was still a great episode, but I hope they don't go on that road. But then at the same time, like they showed Sebastian Shaw clearly dead. They showed Madeline Pryor clearly dead. Gambit died. Magneto, they heavily hinted he died. Callisto, she's kind of a random, but he's dying. But yeah, sorry, all of you spoke at the same time. Threw me off. But yeah, like that's a lot of people to just kill off. And like I feel like there's a lot more to do with some of them. Like Gambit, I feel like this would be a pretty good arc for him. But like Pryor, for example, I'm not done with that yet. Callisto, whatever, but like
was
still kind of random.
Dead? I feel like I missed.
I didn't
that.
see she died.
She was on the ground like next to Sebastian Shaw, and they looked pretty freaking dead to me.
Were her eyes open though, or were they closed? I think if anyone's eyes are closed,
they had, like the body
they're
bag
alive.
blanket over them, like it was.
She looked pretty dead to me, but I mean I could be wrong on that. But I'd say Callisto for sure died in that sequence, which
Callisto's gone. And same thing with Sebastian Shaw. Like. So I'm of two minds. I think you're right. It's funny with the Loki episode, because I remember this now that we're going back to it. I thought that's what you were talking about. The Loki one did not bother me as much as it did you. Like I actually thought it worked there. This one I would be more on board with you where, yes, you get those great moments, but if they do become 4-0, it does, to me, hurt the episode of the back half. It doesn't hurt the relationship drama stuff and the reveal. Like that's all still the same, right? But this whole big moment, sure, it's great visuals, and it literally is. And that's where the writer, he put out a statement today, and that's where I think everyone thought this, but he just confirmed it. He said how he got the show was he pitched this episode because he wanted to make like a 9/11 type episode. And that's exactly what it is, right? Where Cable says, I'm sorry. And then all of a sudden, green and then buildings and people are just dying left and right. And what gives me hope, which sounds weird, but what gives me hope is they've said that in season 2, the X-Men gets new members. So that's why I would hope that, okay, you'd get new members because people are dead, right? Like that would make sense if they've been saying this a couple times. The showrunner and other writers said, there'll be new people that join the team next year. So that could also just mean, it's the same team and new members. So I hope it's that. And the other thing is he was talking about in this post, you can go read it, where his pitch about Gambit was like 9/11 and that where Rogue turns down Magneto and is going to go tell Gambit but never gets to. And his pitch was that he wants to do a story where, sometimes life is too short. You only get the allotted time. Like it sounds dumb, but like you can read his post, he explained it much better, but he wanted to be in a way where it's purposely left unfinished because that's the big tragedy of it. And I agree with you with Gambit. That would be it, because I feel like as much as I love Gambit, he's my second favorite X-Men. It would be kind of like a point, like he sacrificed himself to save even more people from dying, right? In like a goddamn, like when they call him a mutant, he's like, the name's Gambit, mon ami, remember? And then just that boom, it's like, oh my goodness, like that is like just top notch like cinema stuff, right? So my hope is that they are gonna stick with it, but I do agree with you for this one. If they do just have Cable shows up, it's like, I figured it out, Mom, and that's the way they go. I'm fine with them maybe saving like one. Like if it's like Madeline or so, I'm fine with them doing one. But if it's like the whole incident is gone, I don't know. And I don't fully believe Magneto's dead because it was a big blow.
That one's like if he's not on screen technically when he dies, then I don't believe it for sure. Yeah.
That's an off-screen death. Even though I would love
to.
I don't know.
The Sentinels did have that line though. I mean,
they did.
That's programming at work right there. So they don't seem to have an opinion. To me, it's like they just have a sensor. So unless their sensor's fucked up, but I don't know.
I hope it's something like Walking Dead. Boys will remember this, where there's maybe a dead body on top of Magneto, and they think that's Magneto's body. They're reading it, but it's really Magneto's gonna pop up.
Just leech his little dead body.
Yeah, and Magneto.
That's not no mega level threat right there.
Magneto Prime this episode, throwing trains around buildings. He was.
I love that train whip. That was so sick.
God. Yeah.
Do you wonder like what Leech was thinking? Because Magneto looks down at him, speaks German, and Leech didn't understand German, and Leech is just
He's like,
probably thinks we're saved. We're saved.
He's like, what?
Did you catch what he did say to him though? Eventually.
Well, yeah, I had subtitles on, so I definitely
because what happened? Because the last time Magneto saw Leech in episode 2, he said, "You'll never have to be ever afraid ever again." And the last thing he says to Leech is, "Don't be afraid." So I don't know, but it was a nice full circle moment. And again, same thing as Magneto making the sacrifice play. Like what a
Next
what you laugh
episode,
at?
Cable just like saves everyone. He's like, guys, I couldn't save Leech. I got everyone back, but Leech is permanently gone.
Yeah, Magneto like
even
put him
saved
out of his
Callisto.
misery, just put some metal through his skull to kill him, like without Spain, and then just can't roll that back for whatever reason. I don't have much out of this, but I just wanted to say like the whole visuals in this sequence were fucking amazing. Like the first part when they capture that chaos of an impending event like this going on, and they're like quick cutting out, showing like very little. I feel like I've never really seen that done in animation before. It's more of like a live action disaster movie sort of thing. But I thought they did such a good job with it. And then just like the coloration of everything looked so freaking good. It just looked like an anime. It was top notch.
That's what I was saying earlier, where like this is just reminding me of some of like the best anime visuals that I've seen, and like
For sure.
it is to that caliber where they have a big explosion or someone goes off and it's just like the high frequency ring, and it's just so much chaos going on. It's beautiful but terrifying at the same time, and like that's where I was just like, holy shit, they're doing it. Like they are 100% stepping up their animation game in the show, and just the moments of like a fast-paced sequence. Maybe it's when Gambit is on like the speed bike, and it just shows like the giant sentinel way off in the distance, but just kind of like turn and lock on, and then like he shoots the laser, and it like it's so far away. The scale of the sequence seems so large, but yet like you know, if that sentinel looks at you, like you are in danger. It's shooting that laser beam. So all of that was just so masterfully well done. Another one I would compare it to is, you know, Trevor's gonna give me shit because I haven't been catching up on it, but Invincible, like the animation in that show as well, like it's totally up on that caliber, and I'm so glad that they're stepping it up in the MCU X-Men show. Well, is this MCU? I guess
No.
I guess not really.
Remember they
No, I
confirmed
had a
before
bunch
the
of people
season?
try to tell me that in the tweet. They're like, "Oh, it is MCU. Don't say
Watcher's
that.
in
It's
it.
not
The Watcher's
MCU.
in it. He's in the
It's not
MCU.
like this is not the same thing. You know, it's like it's all connected. No, it's not.
It's not one of the multiversal worlds out there.
Well, it is. I'll give them that, but I don't think it.
I thought
to
they
me, it's
confirmed that
not-
it wasn't. I thought we talked about that on Newscast. That has no relation whatsoever with the MCU.
I think they meant it in the sense of like going forward, it's not going to be like these are the X-Men, but if the Watcher's there, it's definitely connected.
In a
say.
multiversal,
I
like
just
even like a
disagree.
what if sense, right? Like this could be a what if.
Yeah, it's connected in the way that like Tobey Maguire is now in the MCU, like that connected, but it's not like
Well,
connected.
Toby's there. He was in the MCU. He was in 616 New York. He's in the MCU.
I'm trying to find these fucking dead bodies because I'm trying to see.
So, question while you look.
we were talking about that earlier.
Dexter on a
Just like,
Sunday night.
The ultimate like Sentinel here is not Master Mold, is it?
I think
Even
it's
though
Master Mold.
It looks like
Master Mold
Master
because
Mold.
it was deploying like thousands of fucking Sentinels.
Oh,
like,
it's a
out of
jacked up Master Mold. Like the
Oh,
three
yeah.
heads, like the fucking Hydra. It's definitely jacked up, but I think it is the Master
with
himself.
Nos.
Okay, and that earlier on in the season we already saw like a piece of shit Master Mold at the
Yeah.
zombie graveyard, right?
This is what they were
Piece of
working
shit,
on.
yeah. He was leveling up still.
this-
It's been a month, remember? So
It's been a month, yeah. So this is. Are we thinking the same team behind this Master Mold's construction? Because I was thinking, like, is this like a Sinister plot because it's shooting green lasers? It was making me think this is green, like Sinister vibes, like. But this doesn't really seem like Sinister would necessarily go about and do something like this.
didn't seem like Sinister to me, but I don't really have much of a theory of who it could be because I'm trying to remember who was standing like in front of Master Mold. Who was that guy again? Like up on that big perch in episode 1 or 2.
Yeah, they arrest him, right? I
Yeah.
can't remember. And then they what's his name? We've had jokes about him a couple weeks ago. It's not Trask, but it's
Yeah, one of those guys.
Garrick. It's
Yeah,
Garrick. Yeah. What did we say? We said Garrick was in some other franchise. Oh, I can't remember. We had a whole bit about Garrett being in some sort of movie because we did a movie review and someone said Garrett accidentally, and we're like, oh, they traded. I can't remember.
Well, they didn't let the guy out, did they? Because they were interrogating him in prison, and he was being all coy.
Could be a
right?
Hydra thing though, right? It's like those fucking Friends of Humanity have people everywhere, right? So, but
Red
this feels like
Skull's
much
behind
bigger.
this.
This feels much bigger. Well, that's what I'm just so curious about. Because what? So this is episode 5. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the 3-parter is about Sinister, and next week's about Storm. So I feel like we only have one episode, unless they could maybe. I'm hoping it's not some sort of time. Oh, what's this here? Eyes closed. Now, do they put a body bag over her though?
No,
Or
this is
she
the only
just
shot. She looks
So
dead
why
to
would you
me.
put a pillow on a dead person's body?
Respect.
You're right, but you're also. I don't know. Maybe this is Elsa Bloodstone. Maybe this isn't actually Jean. Who knows?
I'm gonna say Pryor's alive. To me, if you die off screen or your eyes are closed, where if you go a couple frames later and Callisto's like her eyes
Oh
are,
yeah,
like,
Callisto's
Your eyes
dead
are
as-
bulging out.
Yeah.
Her brain
dead
is
as
on the
come,
ground.
yeah.
and that's where I think that's where I'm hoping they don't have to go back because I could believe them having to replace. Replace?
No,
Gambit?
okay. Let me just quickly debunk your theory because Callisto has a fucking pillow under her head too.
I'm gonna debunk you again here.
Ooh,
Well, you can't
triple
debunk
whammy.
me. It's not a full-on answer.
No, not you. But that's a different dress. This woman
Oh, that's
has
not
blue,
Madeline.
and Madeline's wearing a red dress here.
Oh, so she's like another probably Sebastian Shaw person or whatever. Yeah, because she has
That's
no
Mystique.
shoulder.
No, I think that's like because the same dude, same earrings, same neck.
Let's see the
necklace.
earrings. Let's see the earrings.
I think this is like a towel or some blanket they put over her,
Okay, there's the earrings. What are the earrings on? Dylan could be right. What are the earrings?
and then
Pull up
the
yours
red
again, Taylor.
neckband choker.
Pull up yours again, Taylor. For the, let's see.
You're gonna get fucking Uno reversed here, Taylor.
But
Yeah.
see, the earrings are 2 pieces, whereas
The
the earrings
same
on her
lipstick?
are 1 piece, though.
Cable looks so.
Also,
dirty
look at the
there.
hairstyle.
Well,
Madeline
she's
Pryor's
also
got a full.
blasted. That doesn't matter though.
Madeline-
Oh,
she's
her
got
hair
like
does
long
look-
hair, and this woman has short hair, right?
Oh, why do we keep pulling up Dylan's image? You got images right beside each other. Why didn't you just go back and forth with Google? Look to the left.
Good idea. Well, that's
No, click on that
Plus,
one.
this article
No,
is called
that's short
"Every
Hair.
Death in X-Men '97."
Yeah,
so
that's
that
short
clearly
hair.
confirms.
But no, look.
so who
yeah,
cut
look
her
at the
hair,
back.
right? And the hair color is
She
different.
got
This-
blown
Out of
up,
respect.
dude. She got hit
Out
by
of
a
respect.
building. Like her hair changed a bit. That
No,
happened.
but yeah, look, Taylor, click back on the short hair one. If you look at the back of her neck, that hair ends.
Taylor,
right there.
this
Yeah,
is
that's not
copium at this point. That is
Pryor.
clearly Jean, and you know
Okay.
it. Don't even
Well, it
pretend
might be
anymore.
Gene, so my whole pitch is, one, I'm with Taylor, that's not Madeline Pryor, but two, even if it was, if their eyes are closed, I think they're still fair game to be alive. I think,
Those eyebrows
like we
are
said,
different,
Madeline, there's too much juice there, and I think the show, if it was maybe as bad as it sounds, the MCU Disney Plus shows, I'd tell you that's it. Like, look at fucking, what's her name? Best performance of her career. Who do we lose in Secret Invasion? What the hell is her name? Oh.
Yeah.
Not the dad. Who is episode 1? Agent
Oh,
Hill,
Maria
remember?
Hill.
Yeah,
Oh,
Maria
Hill,
Hill.
yeah.
Best performance of my career. If this is an MCU show, because this show loves the juice, I think even more so, Scott could show up, be really worried, and then when he finds Madeline, it's like oh, thank God you're alive. Yeah, I need to be with you. So I think Madeline is alive. But this is what I was saying. If Gambit's the only one dead, Nightcrawler will take his place, and Magneto will still be around. I think Cyclops could leave the team to go with Madeline, and maybe they'll rebuild Genosha, whatever. So I could see, like, that's why Gambit to me is like a perfect death as far as, let's not go back in time. Let's not say, as much as I love Gambit, we have 5 seasons of him. We had him here, and it's like one of those badass, if not the most badass moment in the show. Like, I agree with you, Dylan. If they go back, and maybe they can save Leech, but I don't want them to save Gambit. I don't want.
I think
I
I'll
don't
be
want them to
especially
lose.
salty because next week is like a Storm Fest. If we get
Yes.
Storm and then we come back the week after and then they undo it, to me that's just like, oh yeah, well we gave you those stakes for 2 weeks. You could live with them for 2 weeks and then they undo it. That would be even worse. But try not to get ahead of myself. But it did happen with Loki. So,
Yep.
but that was MCU. This isn't MCU. So there you go.
Yeah, not MCU.
Cassandra Nova?
Cassandra Nova.
No, that wouldn't be Cassandra. No.
No. Behind the Sentinel attack.
Oh,
She
that
was
again?
killed.
I don't-
Genosha.
No, I don't. There's possibilities that Cassandra Nova could be introduced. There is a storyline that could use her that echoes a similar thing to this. And I'm not on that camp because I would find it odd that Deadpool's going to use her and then X-Men
Oh, right, the
97's
Deadpool
going to
villain,
use her.
right?
Yeah, it's Xavier's sister, twin sister that was in the womb. Evil twin sister. That's my only thing. It's like that'd be odd, but there is aspects of the storyline that do lead to this could be Cassandra Nova. So.
I feel like I'm more inclined to think it's someone that was in the OG series. I just feel like that's what this show is doing, at least for season 1.
Yeah,
Right.
or I guess it depends.
Have we had a villain yet that's that was new?
No, I mean that's it, right? Where this is
Yeah.
a chance that this could be their cliffhanger for season 2, and then they bring
Right.
this in because I don't think we need Apocalypse again. We're good on I love Apocalypse, but we can get.
Yeah, I don't
someone
think
new,
we're going
so.
Apocalypse route at this point.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind if it's no. I just would be very caught off guard if Deadpool 2 and X-Men 97 at the same time are doing Cassandra Nova. I'd be very surprised if they would. Like,
But I
have a
mean, with
team that's,
strike
like-
delays, like who knew? Who would
That's
have
true.
known? You know.
That's
They're
true.
coming out
It's just
so
the
close to
fact
each
of for 5 years they're like Spider-Man can't fight a guy in a glider, and they're like, yeah, sure, let's do the same villain for these shows. But 97's I guess on
Yeah.
such a smaller scale though too, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Little mini thing I liked Gambit that specific moment when he saves the Morlocks because they were just like, oh, the X-Men fucking hate us. They're not going to save the day. And Gambit pops through there. I thought that was a nice moment with them. And then I mean that line, of course, like we didn't really talk about this part yet, but when Rogue goes down to his body and she can touch him now, which is like it shouldn't be so emotional, but it is because of the context. And Sugar, I can't feel you.
That cut to
the
black,
tears just
yeah.
started streaming down my face. It was so sad. And then the theme too, that sad version of the
yeah.
theme with
Yeah.
the outro. God damn, it was hitting
they
me
should have
hard.
killed the arcade thing this episode. They should have just had credits.
Oh
It
yeah,
was
that
funny.
didn't.
They really, yeah.
didn't work.
They should have had
Tony-
just sad shots
Tony
of the
in
city.
in the cave, just the hammer.
Yeah, or just black screen at that point. Like it's most saddest moment this year's ever experienced.
Yeah.
Sad score, and then like Cyclops like heat vision. Like it's
Just have like the end game signatures of like all the actors are doing
yeah,
it.
yeah. No, like that's to me where it's like that's where I bring in the whole and people are like, oh well, how could the MCU do this? It's not 5 years. No. Stuff like Rogue for the first time ever can touch Gambit, and how can she touch Gambit? That's her only way to confirm that he's actually dead. How fucking sad and tragic and just like poetic that is. Like, and that's where I was waiting. I'm like, oh man, if she's touching, I got to see if there's a glove. That's over. And it was. And just little stuff like his hair's half blown, like it's like he's like missing it, like he's bald on one spot, like obviously got blown up and stuff. But that's where it's like, man, such a great way of, the second they zoom in and you see her skin on skin, you're like, man, it's over for him. And that's where, again, that would be a moment of like, you don't want to pull that back. And that's where I was trying to say non-spoilers, but this literally felt like Game of Thrones Red Wedding. It was, oh man, I hope they stick with it because I think Gambit is, like I said, not expendable, but it's a great arc. I think Magneto, you can find a way that he made himself a little bubble. Who knows? And then, like I said, what an interesting situation. That's why I think Magneto's alive too, because Rogue turned down Magneto to be with Gambit, but Magneto's alive. So how awkward
Yeah.
is that? It's like the guy that
Oh,
did
it's great.
survive.
So good.
Yeah, is the guy that you're like, no, like, I don't know. But now I feel like she's like, well, whatever. Like, you're the second option. I feel like Magneto won't be like, he didn't bring her in and stuff. And
He was like, oh, he couldn't even take that. Look at me, I'm still alive.
yeah, Omega
Loser.
threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you survive, Magneto? Well, I used Leech as a shield against that big thing. I put his body over mine, and it
Fucking
thought
picked him
that
up by
was
the
like-
neck.
he thought Leech was me, and it said Omega level threat denied. And I was like, oh, another
He's
one.
completely charred, except for
Magnus.
the shape of like Leech. It's just like that was his perfect shield.
How'd you survive? I don't know. I don't know how I survived. Let's make Rogue. Let's go bury Gambit. What a good man! What a good man he was. Leech just he just burned
Like a
into the
Looney
ground.
Tune. Yeah.
yeah. They're like, if Rogue looks over, someone has a shovel. They're just like literally shoveling him off the sidewalk. Oh, and much to Dylan, your dismay, I also think this does mean Genosha's like. If they stick with this ending, I think Genosha's like destroyed and
I don't,
done.
the weird part of it though is like even when we were getting those shots on TV or like the X-Men Back at the Mansion we're watching, like the island, like there's various cities or at least like it's spread out enough where
Yeah.
it seemed like it was just kind of maybe it was the capital area. I'm sure where a lot of the people were living, but it didn't seem like the whole island was exploded or anything. You know, maybe it got worse. I mean, I guess that was we're meant to believe that the Master Mold getting destroyed was the kind of end of that sequence. But I'm hoping that there's still hope, and I also feel like with Rogue. Yes, she was about to turn him down, but I could see, especially with this event happening, I could see this being a moment for her where she's like, you know what? Maybe I need to do this still, be this queen, because like we need to make things better, and this is the best way I can do it is by being in this position of power. And Magneto is a powerful enough guy, and he has his head screwed on straight these days that he's the person who should lead and help fix these issues. So I could still see it turn around. I don't know.
I just wonder if he does survive this after that whole Senate thing, if this is like, we didn't want him to go back to old Magneto, but like I could see this being the catalyst to him putting that helmet back on and like, that's it, I'm going full.
Yeah, I guess it really depends who did it, who sent this attack.
Yeah. I just don't know. Like, that's my only but only thing of Magneto actually being dead is the Magnus I know, even after he gave that speech, would still like, I'm going to fuck these humans. If it was humans or whoever it was, right? If it's mute, but I just feel like he would not, if there's any smell of this was human attack, it is over this time. And that's where I think either he is dead or it is probably some sort of mutants. I guess the other reason why I think it might be over too is the mutants might be scared to live at Genosha now. Because yes, in the world they got to deal with humans, but in Genosha it's a one stop. Here's where you could kill all the mutants. So I'm not saying it won't ever come back, but I think it could be a minute. But I do like that pitch of Rogue kind of taking on that responsibility. Plus that could be another reason why we get another team member, right? Like what if Scott, and even if Magneto's dead or not, Rogue, Scott, and Madeline Pryor stay at Genosha to build it back up. That's like a few members gone, and then Scott's still in the picture. I'm sure they would interact with the X-Men. So I do like that pitch of her just taking on, or maybe she takes it on in honor of Eric, right? If he is dead, it's the way of like, okay, I'm gonna, she respected him, so I'm gonna take that on to, in his memory, bring on the work that he was gonna do. So. Mm-hmm.
There was a quick shot there when Magneto got basically hit back, knocked into Xavier's big statue. Xavier's statue's falling over. And as that statue fell, I'm pretty sure that at least a few dozen mutants got killed and crushed underneath it.
Oh, yeah. They got
which
squished.
is very, very brutal.
Well, like right after that too, because he like had the image of them dying, right? And that's when he's like, I'll avenge them. And then that's when he grabs the train. Like he was very much aware of what had just
Were there
happened.
mutants in that train too? I mean, let's just
potentially.
Maybe that was a mutant.
And he, like, shook
it was
him
a
out.
mutant that can turn himself into a train.
Oh,
it was
there
Morph.
you go.
It's just more. He's just whipping Morph around.
Honestly, though, Taylor,
Leech's
that kind
brother's
of
in the train.
leads to that potential Cassandra Nova theory. Like maybe that was like, Master Mold, during this attack, you gotta make sure you take out that fucking statue of my brother that ate me in the womb or whatever happened.
yeah.
That idea of the twin in the womb, it just made me go Malignant and fucking Gabriel.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why it's like for me when I hear she's gonna be in Deadpool, I'm like, yeah, Deadpool can make that work. And I'm sure, actually, the anime world could, but it is such a silly origin, right? Of like Xavier's evil womb twin that was in there, and
it's definitely one of the things that like 10 or 12 or 30 years after the character's created, they're like, what kind of weird backstory could we give them? And then they're like, well, I guess the womb we haven't explored yet, so we can go there.
And then it's something 20 years later when they're like, oh, when we bring her back in, let's find a new origin, because I feel like nowadays it's such a comic booky thing. But hey, maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
Do you guys have? I have some other notes, but you guys got anything to throw out now?
I was gonna just comment on what you were talking about with Magneto, and if this is like a human attack, like he is just full. I really liked how kind of just the whole lead up of them wanting to make him like the ruler of Genosha, and I think they were calling it like the counselor, chancellor, whatever.
The chancellor.
Chancellor Palpatine type role that he's entering here, and
a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
I just love that whole dynamic because I have liked this kind of redeemed Magneto that we've been getting, but I do like the idea of him having certain possible nefarious things going on. And I'm not saying like he's playing all the X-Men for just fools. I do believe that he is honoring Charles' just wishes, I guess, to like really lead the X-Men and do like just carry on Charles's dream, essentially. I do think that is his true intentions. But I still feel like he, at the end of the day, he still thinks like mutants are that step up. And I like this I mean, now he's murked, Gambit's murked, a lot of other mutants are dead. Genosha's doing really poor. But at that time, I like this idea of him just going from the leader of the X-Men that has like a very noble goal to kind of maybe sidelining that and just becoming like the chancellor of Genosha and just getting this like more ultimate power thing, because ultimate power ultimately corrupts. And I just think the idea of putting that position on a character that's already been an enemy in the past is just so intriguing, and I was curious as to what was going to come. Of course, that was earlier on in the episode before shit really hit the fan, but I still like just the little breadcrumbs that they're going with this character and the decisions that they're making, because it very well could have just been like, I don't know, Emma Frost or Sebastian, what is it, Shaw or Stan?
Shaw.
Not Stan.
I called him Stan
that's
accidentally
Bucky.
earlier. Sorry, guys. That's an actor, not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like,
and
very
even
much
to your point, Rogue threw that out when she was talking. Like, not like this is all you wanted was just to take over and he's like, no, I'm following Charles' wishes. But even her was like, I don't know if this is like, is this like, are you doing this for the X-Men, or are you doing this because, you get all, like, what better way to take over than get not just the bad mutants, but the good mutants believing in all one cause? And especially after an attack like this, like, that's where I'm curious if he is alive. It is like a 9/11, right? And that's something where in real life, we've talked about this before, where that bonded America for a tragic event. Every American, didn't matter if you were Republican or Democrat, you were together. And it was like, fuck this one country. That's what now Magneto, think if he's alive, what he could do with like a terrorist attack on people like Leech getting killed, like all these people, like, and now it's like the Hellfire Club, the X-Men, like they all lost people. And now it's like, are they not going to band together here? And there's no Charles to be like, we need to be good. And, like they lost some people here.
True.
Yeah.
And like even just the moments when who is it? The governor lady, the blonde lady with the glasses that potentially could be
Mystique, not Mystique. Yeah.
Yeah. What's her
Call her Mystique
position?
for now.
It's Val something, but I know it's Val. I think she's a senator, right? I think.
Senator. Yeah. So like a
Senator
higher
Val.
political type role. Because even at the party, after it was kind of decided that Magneto was going to be the chancellor, she comes in and she's like super obviously upset about it because Magneto has been a terrorist in the past, and she even drops a line of, most countries wouldn't allow a terrorist to become like their ruler, and then he counters with, but yet they're like they allowed their rulers or leaders to be terrorists. And I just thought it was such like a well said line. And he's like sipping his little champagne with Emma Frost and Sebastian.
He got her. He knew he got her. He's like, oh yeah.
That's
and
where,
like, again, topical thing, like something that's debated about today, right, with certain leaders. So
but like in that moment too, that's where I'm like, man, this guy has plans. Like yeah, he's a nice guy so far this season, but like, come on, he didn't have to say that. I just really like how, even though Magneto is in a different I guess mindset so far of the season from where he has been in the past, he's still Magneto. Like he's still. He still drops lines like that and criticizes just governments and rulers and whatnot. So I man, that was like chef's kiss for me when he dropped that line there. I was loving all of that stuff going on.
Well, and even then, a month ago, he almost tried to kill a bunch of senators, right? Like, he stopped himself, but he still was close to just opening up a portal and letting them just freeze in space. Like, and that was just Storm getting shot. And he was like, he was there for a week doing good. Storm got shot, and he's like, that's it, it's over. And then he calmed himself down. But it's like, if he is alive, and now there's, I don't know, and they don't do a time travel, I'd say there's probably at least hundreds of mutants dead, right? So it's like, how's that guy going to respond to all that? And maybe that's the moment where Charles does show back up. He's like, my friend, you've been doing so good. And he's like, oh, okay, Charles, I won't do it. But and then, that club, when we talk about, I think we've had this question like GV anniversary casts, like fictional places you want to go. I want to go to that Genosha club really bad. I want to see people dancing, the music.
Not on that
playing,
night, but another night. I'd love
not on that night. Maybe like week 2 of opening. All week 1, because they got, not the best waiters they're figuring out, but week 2, but I love the color scheme too. Even the color scheme, funny enough, was like pink and purple. Like, it was like Magneto's colors. So it's funny, like everything was Magneto themed. So, but yeah, I want to go there. So,
well said. Those are all my notes. You guys covered them all there. Nice. Well said. Yeah.
I got a couple notes to fire off. One on the topic of the topic of Nightcrawler being back, the magnificent Nightcrawler. He felt like just very different for me, at least compared to what he was in that original show.
jovial, like
Yeah,
but maybe is that because he's Genosha now, I guess, and they're just like having a good time.
He just really seemed a lot more youthful. It seemed like the X-Men First Class version as opposed to just the plain X-Men version. I think it's mostly just from like I keep saying like last season, but I guess like the last show.
Season, technically, yeah.
Yeah, technically. But like he's super religious with all of his lines and like he's living in the monastery. He just has this just wealth of knowledge, it seems. And like every line that he says, it feels like it has substance to it. And he's relaying a message or something with every line that he's saying.
He's the Gandalf of X-Men. He's
100%. He's speaking in riddles.
He just drops the knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, but in this one, he's like totally like in arms with everyone, which like I do like as well. But I don't know. I think I like the more
I'm the
stoic
opposite.
version.
I liked it more. I mean, if you go back to our retros for the original series, I didn't really love this version of Nightcrawler that we had, and so I liked this version, and I think it is just that Genosha love. Something about the water in Genosha, makes people just smile a lot more. But he still had the religious element to him, or at least they mentioned that. But you're right, it kind of doesn't come across in his dialogue. But they mentioned that he's like the religious conduit. I forget what word they use, but he's like he kind of runs the religious part of the island. And then Gambit had that joke about like, you didn't bring the killer monks with you, did you? Which I thought was another fun callback there. But yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot of substance. I'll agree with you there. But I liked the tone of him more, and he seemed like younger, I guess, too. Like he seemed more like a teenager than whatever he was back in the other series.
Same voice actor, which was crazy because most of the other voice actors sound older, where he sound younger. I was like, oh, it has to be a new person.
Crazy,
and I looked up, nope, the same one. It was back. So for me, I took it as there's two things. One, I think Kirkland, that version you like, is gonna come back because some if they don't do a time travel thing, someone's gonna have to console all these people about these dead bodies, and Kurt Wagner's gonna have he's gonna have some knowledge, and he even dropped. I can't remember. He said something about like sitting in love isn't bad, or I can't remember the line about like you make mistakes, but if you mean well, you're absolved of your sins. I like that he is Rogue's brother. He's like trying to like egg Gambit on, like, oh, you love her, like just finally go like tell it. Like I love that dynamic was going on, but I also took it as they're just trying to get over Genosha being so good because this is probably the first place he's been in a while that doesn't mock or scared of him right away. That's what I took it as. We're seeing him. Yeah. I think his motivation and him being that attitude was just to get over Genosha such a heaven that even this guy, who the last seasons or whatnot, he was much more recluse, much more quieter, onto himself. He can be really free here. So because there's lots of other crazy looking characters, but like I said, I think you're gonna get a lot of that, and I do think he will be. I think there's been other stuff of him in the trailer popping off. I think he's gonna be one of the people that permanently joins the team, and I'm excited for that. I think love the look, and I think there's lots of people or lots of storylines, even with Rogue and Mystique, we haven't even tapped into. And I think the show between Cable, the stuff with Jean, Wolverine, and Logan, they're showing that they're almost picking up on storylines that they never fully did. They did a little in the original series, but they're really fleshing them out. So I think he will, whenever they add these new team members, if it's the end of the season or the beginning of next, I think he's for sure on the team, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm so excited to see him pop off.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, well said. Of mutants like him or Beast are obviously going to receive a lot more pushback in their everyday life than someone like a Jean who just or Gambit, who looks like a regular person except for their crazy outfits that they wear. So that's a good point. That definitely changes someone's personality too, when you can just be yourself in your everyday life, and there are other people around you who look like you and talk and sound and know your struggles.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that not to walk into a room and someone goes, oh. But a few of my notes is my favorite thing when they alluded to sex was Rogue just said, and then other things started happening.
And he's like in the bed too, like
such a kid. Like it's so good, but it still is like I think even kids can pick up on that one. That full line Kurt you're talking about was nations shouldn't allow a terrorist to be a leader, and then Magneto responds back with, yet they let their leaders be terrorists. So such good stuff there. Just a little like we were talking about when the things were going like blowing up and the stopping the scene to black, the music. I love that when Logan talked to Jean and then when she kissed him, they cut the music. It just went dead silent. Such a nice little touch of like oh, this is happening. Because like we talked about, I don't think they've ever fully really kissed really. So that happened here. I love that Logan had his eyes open. And then my last note is on the news they called Jean Marvel Girl, which I don't think has happened in the original series. That is her name many times in the comic books. I don't like that. I don't like Captain Marvel. I don't like Marvel Girl. I don't like Miss Marvel. I don't like. There's no one called Mr. DC. Like I don't like when they do that. But Marvel. Yeah, I don't like any of that stuff. But a shout out on the news. They're like, oh, you and Marvel Girl. I was like, oh, okay. I guess that's her name there. But that's all the notes I got.
Continuing on with my notes.
Sorry, I thought you were done. I didn't mean to take
No, that's okay. That's okay. Something that was mentioned here, I don't know if they had mentioned this in the past, and not something I ever thought about, which completely makes sense, but Scott can't see color. I guess all he sees is red, and that never really like registered with me. I guess I just never thought about like fully what he sees other than just red. But no, when he was talking to Jean, just describing Nathan and what he just imagines his eyes looking like, which is of course exactly what his eyes look like. That was kind of he made a good guess there, but
it's like in the first Predator movie when it takes the mask off and it's just fucking red everything. That's what Scott sees.
I thought that was the night vision, but no, that's just their eyes. Yeah, and then when Magneto was talking about the basically the promise that Charles asked of him when they were like met in that bar in Germany or whatnot, and he says, he quotes Charles by saying, "Magneto, any dream worth having is a dream worth dying for," and it's a nice line, but like I don't know why when I first heard it, I'm just like, I don't know, that just sounds strange. Like any dream, like anything, like. Starting a podcast? We're dying to start a podcast? This would be my dream. I don't know.
Your dream to start a podcast though?
It wasn't
our dream.
We just kind of fell into it, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I think I just hyper focused on that line where I'm like, it seems very extreme for. I don't know. Like I want to be a soccer star, and I'm gonna die for it. But I don't know.
I don't know if you're that into soccer. I think you would die for it. Ask Becca.
Good point. I guess I don't have a real dream. Gotta do some.
You're still waiting.
Self-thinking. Yeah.
You're still young.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Other than that, though, that's all I got. Oh, I guess it's nice to have Emma Frost like kind of back in the show and more of just being a thumb up or a thumb down. Like she's.
You need to get her the thumb up. Yeah.
I want her to be like a permanent resident in this show moving forward. I really like her sass when the senator walks up and I think it's Sebastian like whatever is the matter, and she's like, is it your dress? Like I don't know, I just like her snobby attitude. It's kind of fun.
And like I said, she said some sort of remark of like, oh, daydreaming or something to like Madeline Pryor. And like I said, I think they put that in there specifically because I don't know about Madeline's history, but I know her and Scott have done that. So I don't know if that was them just kind of a tip of the nod. Or I wonder if even Emma was reading Madeline's mind.
I think she was eavesdropping for sure on that mind drift.
I've been dropping noise.
Yeah.
But she's somebody I think in play that could... When I hear these rumblings of there's going to be new members, I think she could somehow end up on the team. Especially if Shaw's dead, I think there's a good chance. So,
has he been a part of the X-Men? Shaw?
I don't think so. I think that maybe in like an unholy alliance way, but I don't think he's ever like had a key card in a room and like attended a class or taught one.
He's trying out for Gambit's new position.
Yeah, but I could be wrong. It's kind of like the Avengers, right? Everyone's been an Avenger, so I'm sure I'll try and get that next time. Anything else?
I'm ready for some thumbs.
Some thumbs. Plural. You think there's two?
I'm going 2 thumbs strongly up. As I have been with this whole show consistently. And like I said, if we do that rollback and then we undo some of this stuff, I'll go back in time like Cable and I'll undo the thumbs I gave this episode. But for now,
no, Dylan!
But for now, you're getting 2 juicy thumbs from me.
I guess my only hope. Lastly on the Cable, sorry, Kurgan, go ahead.
2 fully erect thumbs for yours truly.
Damn.
My hope is with him apologizing and saying he was too late is like he had one shot to fix this instance and he didn't, and that's why it won't happen. That's another hope. That's why we apologize.
Honestly, everything you said with that guy posting on Twitter, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm pretty certain then that we're not going to go back in time, but
But you never know,
knows?
right? We got time travelers. They've saved Xavier how many times, right?
Or
So-
else I'm gonna go in that guy's DMs and say this whole article you wrote was total
Send him a blue
bullshit.
bush.
he tweeted at me, so I'll tweet at him. I'll say, "Hey, my fellow podcaster thinks your show's bullshit. What do
coming
you
for
do?"
you. Yeah.
Yeah, Bo de
Here's some blue bush.
Yeah, every thumb. I'm gonna be like, I wish I was like God from Poor Things and just had a morgue downstairs. I'd cut off all the thumbs, just bring them all up. I do agree with Dylan. If there is some going back, then I would reconsider. But if this stays as it is and holds out as it is, it wouldn't be like a dumb downer. But this is thumbs up. Best episode of the X-Men so far. Best episode in Disney Plus. I think. If not, I have to think about it because, like I said, the Andor one. But it's like top 3. Top tier Marvel stuff. Like just everything. As long as they stay true to this is an all timer, and it's gonna be. I just can't wait to see what they got cooking. Obviously, next week's the Storm episode. But Mr. Field, where are those thumbs at?
My thumbs are just they're not breaking. They're just both up. You're not gonna bend
Someone
them.
tries to break them and it doesn't happen.
That's like a laugh
Ticklish.
scream.
Jay's got a thumb breaking kink.
I just this episode is incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Everything about it was just, man. This is a great way to start the day.
Not for them, but
no, not for that. No, definitely not for them.
guys, it's minute 12:01. Oh, is that the sun? Don't.
I can't wait to see what other episodes we're going to be getting into here, and just Storm's reaction too, because I don't know if she has cable TV out there. She's out with Forge, just fighting this fucking owl, and she's gonna think that's the worst part of her day. But then she's gonna turn on the news, and be like, "Oh my god, like fuck!" She's not even gonna have her powers yet. Hopefully she does, but
Finally, Gambit is dead.
I never liked him.
She's the one actually that set up Master Mold.
Master
my
Mold.
Oh my.
Her and
Yeah, there's
Forge repaired it. Yeah.
There's just a whole like 15-minute dialogue to Forge about like how much she hated Gambit, and it's just so happy this has ended. I just want to see. Okay, so yeah, we got Life Death next week, and then okay, that has to be the Cable episode. I feel like, right? Episode 7, Bright Eyes. If anything's gonna happen with Cable, it's happening there.
Mhm.
So
We're getting
we'll
it.
see. Yeah, hopefully no. And then after this, Tolerance is Extinction. So we'll see. But yeah, Bright Eyes, that would be Summers related, I would imagine. So we'll see. But next week, we'll be back with Summer Storm and Forge. See what's going on. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Promise when you hear from us next, it'll not be boring.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.